Let's get on with the really interesting people.
Alrighty.
Not us.
Nope.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
To who?
Us. Our audience. Us. Who else do you think listens to the show, Ryan?
Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Thanks, Beth.
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
My name is Rob Minot.
Did you hear the solid hit that I got on that?
That was
solid.
good.
That was a good hit.
Major.
That was probably one of the best cowbells. You should keep that for future reference. Just flip it out.
We have to sample that.
Copy and paste.
Joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury.
Hi there.
And Cow. What was that?
It was a hi and howdy. That just went hi there.
Well done, sir. Way to up the podcast immediately.
Comedy gold.
Opening line. Raw.
I'm just giving you stuff for the outtake show at the end of the year.
You think that's going to be an outtake?
You
That's
never
going in the front. And joining us as well, cowbell player extraordinaire, Mr. Steve Barclay.
Howdy ho.
Yeah. You guys excited?
Excited as
It's a beautiful
always.
day out. Look at that. It's a beautiful fall day out. It's a little chilly out though.
Yeah, it's a bit chill. Might brisk.
Well, what's new? What's shaking there, Mr. Ryan? What's going on with you? Anything exciting?
No, life is going on as it normally does.
Well, you're boring.
I am boring. What's going on with you?
Don't make this about me. Don't turn this around. How dare you?
Yeah, I have the original recording.
Have you tried Braille Uno yet?
No, I have not.
Does this interest you at all?
No, it does not.
Did you play Uno before you lost your sight?
I was trying to remember. Is Uno the one that have like the little colored cards as well? Like there's green, yellow, blue on the cards, and you have to match your colors?
I think
you have to get the same colors?
Yeah, I think it's like. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's like a matching card game. I just remember having a real disdain for it. I didn't like it. Some kid on my block had it and wanted to play it all the time, and I was just like, I'm not going to play that.
I played Simon. You know, it had the 4 colored things and
Beep,
boop.
Yeah,
Beep,
I remember that.
Beep boop beep boop beep boop.
Oh God, I keep forgetting.
Did we ever get you a Boppet?
Kids of the 80s. A Bop It? No.
Boppet, yeah.
No, what's a bobbit? I don't remember.
A Boppet, it's a toy. It's like those. I don't remember what those things were called. The wizard things, the 4 colors. But the Boppet actually has different things on it. So there's like a twist thing. There's a slide thing, and it basically gives you verbal instructions. So it says twist it, so you twist it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this new? Like this is a toy that we had when we were kids?
No, this was. I first saw it. Where did I first see it? Was it the Blazies? I'm trying to remember.
Really?
Yeah, it goes back a ways, but somebody had it at a convention, and we had all kinds of fun with it at a convention. But inadvertently, it was a fully accessible toy.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Look it up on eBay.
Yeah, I keep forgetting Ryan's younger than us. I was like, Simon. I was like, I never played with Simon. That was way after. We had to play with rocks.
Yeah, that's right.
We didn't have this high tech stuff of blinking lights and stuff.
Remember Tinker Toys? You had little round wooden wheels and the wooden tanks.
I had those.
Totally.
I had a can of those.
Yeah, I once hit my sister with the Tinker Toy box. She was bullying me as per usual, and I threw it at her. My dad came in and went, "You had it coming."
Oh, that's funny.
I tell you.
That was a great time for toys. The 80s.
What, the 80s?
The 80s, yeah. Kids now don't have toys. It's all electronics.
80s.
And you could use your imagination.
80s, I was all into D&D and the Apple II Plus computer.
He's a true nerd.
Yeah.
I remember I had Tinker Toys. I had that. Remember that slime stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that. I had
that called?
one of those once.
Remember
And then
Silly Putty?
Yeah, I remember Silly Putty. Yeah, I used Silly
I
Putty.
had Silly Putty.
Slinky? Remember Slinky?
You know what? I always wanted a Slinky. Never got one.
Really?
I did
Yeah.
enjoy the Slinky.
They also had, the best theme song, right? A Slinky, a
That's
Slinky.
right.
Yeah,
Fun,
that's
it's a
right.
wonderful toy.
Yep.
I bet you that slime stuff had to have been toxic.
Oh,
No problem.
it almost certainly was.
probably knocked a few years off my life playing with it.
When you had science class, did they ever bring out mercury and let you play with it in your hands?
No, did they do that? with you?
Yeah, they did that with me.
Wow, they hated you
probably,
guys.
Probably explains a lot.
It's like, science teachers getting revenge on the students,
Yeah.
little bastards. I'll give them here you go, kids.
Play with
some mercury. Lick it.
It's a metal.
Oh, well, it's
Taste
lunchtime.
it. And write an essay on how it tastes.
Yeah.
What was that? What were we talking about?
I don't remember. It's probably the mercury.
No, as we were talking about toys, we had to make our own toys. I remember we took kites and we put nails and stuff in them and turned them into
Battle kites?
Really?
battle kites and just would fly them and try to wreck each other's kites.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we're crazy.
Yeah. I was into model rockets back then, too.
Right.
Those little SDs model rockets. I would build my own rockets, and then I graduated to making missiles, basically. got sick of the parachutes not opening on the kit ones and having them come crashing to the ground. So I'd just start taking paper rolls and stuff and then stuffing them full of things like, what did I put in them? Sawdust and things like that. Glitter or whatever. So they'd just go up to the top and explode.
That's brilliant. Oh, I wish I would have. Yeah, we went through a phase where we used to take little Hot Wheels cars and dip them in gasoline and then light them on fire. And we had a lot of emotional problems as a
Living
child.
up there, absolutely.
Well, listen.
I know.
Hey, Ryan.
It's a sad story. Yes, sir.
Ryan.
Rob.
What are we doing today?
Today we are talking with Brett Oppegaard about a project called UniD.
Oh, interesting. You know what? I was reading up on him. You know where he is based.
Honolulu.
You do. Yeah.
I do.
Lucky bum.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Oh, cool. Well, that's going to be a little bit later. First, hey, I want to talk to you guys about something.
What do you want to talk to us about, Rob?
Well, I got a little piece of news that I think you guys might find interesting. I might have some interesting things to say about it. Did you hear that Uber has launched a new service called Uber Pet?
No.
No.
Uber Pet lets furry friends join the ride for a fee. Uber is experimenting with a new feature that aims to reduce cancellations as a result of customers bringing a pet along for the ride. Dubbed, well, hold on, don't clap too soon. I haven't finished reading the article. You might not.
Don't need to, but keep going.
Dubbed TLDR. Dubbed Uber Pet, the new feature will be available in select cities starting on October 16th. It used to be that bringing a dog or a cat in an Uber was unpredictable. Uber recommended customers contact their drivers before bringing pets in the car, but it's likely that many people didn't follow this advice. Surprise pets are among the many complaints that you'll hear from Uber drivers, along with drunk people throwing up, I'm sure.
That's right.
That's probably
number one.
Drivers have allergies or don't want to deal with shedding or cleanup. As a result, oftentimes the ride would be canceled. Uber wants to reduce that friction with this new feature. Now, riders can select Uber Pet among the list of options before selecting a ride. A surcharge of $3 to $5 will be included in the upfront pricing when the option is selected in the app. Meanwhile, drivers who don't feel like shepherding creatures of the four-legged variety can opt out in the preferences section of the driver app. If, however, they choose to welcome those pets as passengers, they will be guaranteed to receive a significant portion of the surcharge on top of their standard trip earnings. Now, of course, the relevant part of this is that service animals are exempt, of course, because service animals...
That was where I was going next.
Yeah, service animals will, of course, ride in any Uber, any of the Uber services.
Yes, but.
Yes.
But that's exactly where I'm
Yes,
going.
but. And that's why I applauded, because I give Uber credit for at least making some sort of attempt to actually have drivers who will pick up people with animals. No guarantees with taxi companies. No guarantees. How many times have we heard of cars just pulling away when they see a guide dog?
Yep.
You know, you have no guarantees with a taxi. At least with Uber Pet, if I have to pay $3 to $5, at least I know I've got a ride.
Yeah, but hold on though. If you have a service dog, I mean, you should be able to call a regular Uber and they cannot refuse you. I mean,
you should.
Well,
but
no,
it happens.
I understand that it happens, but it shouldn't happen, and that's where
Exactly.
Well, this is where my issue with this is not that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great idea. I mean, somebody has to take their dog or cat to the vet or something that needs. You know, you don't want to go through that hassle.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm sure that anybody who wants to take their, pet in an Uber, this is going to be a great service for them. But I think that the danger is you don't want this to get confused with service animals. And you certainly don't want Uber drivers to think that they can opt out of, you know,
a service animal pickup because somebody didn't check the pet box.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So again, this is something where training has to be real
Clear.
real clear.
Yeah.
And there is a big difference between a service animal and a pet. And so hopefully this new service doesn't blur those lines or make it even more murky in terms of just what Uber's policies are, because, you know, we've just, a few months ago, we were reading about problems within Uber where drivers were not picking up people with service animals.
Yeah.
So it has happened even just recently. So hopefully this doesn't blur those lines even more.
Right. And that's why, I think as somebody, if I am living on my own and I have a service animal of whatever type and I need to get to a vet appointment, I'm going to pay the $3 to $5 and I'm not going to take the chance of a car not pulling up and leaving me away. I'll pay the money to have a guaranteed ride because I have an appointment I have to be at. If my pet's sick or whatever, I need to be there.
If your pet is, yes. But
Right.
I mean, if you have a service dog,
Your service dog might need to go in for shots or check up.
if you want to go to the mall, you should be able to take your service animal on an Uber, a normal Uber. You shouldn't have to pay the $3 to $5.
Absolutely. I agree with that, but I'm saying if it's an appointment that I need to get to with a service animal, I will pay the service fee to guarantee a ride.
See, Ron, I will advocate for you and say that that's unacceptable.
I totally
You should
agree.
not have to.
Agree.
That's $3 to $5 you could be spending on Timbits because clearly you're
agree.
addicted
You
to them
should
because
not
I had to
have
bring them
to.
in again today.
You should not have to, but reality is, Rob, we hear it day after day.
I know.
People are being turned away.
But listen,
So-
we have to make
Yes, we have to
to
educate.
fight the fight.
Yes, we do. If you have to
So-
get somewhere, you know what? I'm going to get there.
No.
They could probably solve this just by having a checkbox that says service animal and it exempts the fee.
Oh, sure they could.
That's interesting. That's an interesting idea.
That way the driver knows that there's going to be a service animal there.
Yeah.
There's no surprise to the driver. A driver who doesn't want to take a ride with a dog doesn't have to if they've got, allergies or something. It would just, to me, that just makes sense.
Look at that.
Well, and again, why doesn't this happen with taxi companies and
Exactly.
other service companies?
Well, come on. Taxi companies have
mafia,
only had
but-
50 years to work
Yeah,
this out.
I know.
We don't want to rush them or anything.
Yes.
Look at that. Steve just solved the problem.
Way to go, Steve.
That's what I'm here for.
Anything else to say about that?
No, I'm still waiting for Uber and Lyft to get here. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Can't wait.
When is that supposed to start up?
I thought any time now.
I thought it was October. The end of October?
I think that they're still trying to get drivers to get their Class 4 licenses, right? That's the stipulation, is they have to have a Class 4 driver's license to be an Uber driver here. So
That's ridiculous.
it'll be soon.
I wonder how much competition there is for drivers because, there's other services out there like Skip the Dishes, DoorDash, all of that stuff that need drivers too.
Yeah. Amazon.
And they don't require a Class 4 license because you're just carrying food.
Right.
So I wonder, when you put in a requirement that says you got to have a Class 4 license, if people just go, no, I'll work for Skip the Dishes.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I mean, that was Uber's argument to begin with. It's just that it makes it too complicated for drivers to actually bother with.
Yeah.
Who the hell wants to go get a whole another license just to become an Uber driver?
Yeah.
So.
Or a taxi driver.
Yep.
Yeah. So. In any case, October 16th is the date that Uber Pet is being rolled out in the following cities: Austin, Denver, Nashville, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Philadelphia,
St. Paul.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, Philadelphia, Phoenix, and Tampa Bay. So if you're in one of those cities, you are in luck. You can take your little puppy to the mall with you. You can't take it in the mall because it's not a service animal.
People in Tampa can take their therapy penguins, or
right.
pelicans rather. Sorry, pelicans. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming penguins are okay. I'm not seeing anything on this article.
There's no banned animals list.
I mean, it just says dogs and cats, but it doesn't mention. But I can't see anyone having a problem with a penguin.
Me and Eric, my Eric anaconda, I'm just stumbling over all kinds of words today. Yeesh.
Eric the anaconda.
Eric the anaconda.
There's a children's.
He likes to hug the drivers.
All right.
I think we need to do shows Wednesdays more often.
Yeah, clearly we're all full of energy.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah, I keep telling you, get rid of those Monday shows.
We did. We went to Tuesday.
Well, these days are much better. Hey, Steve, why don't you tell the fine folks about Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is a Canadian-based distributor of, guess what? Assistive technology.
I would not have guessed that.
Really? Oh, I got to work something better into the name then. And we do all kinds of low vision and blindness aids, as well as all kinds of physical access aids and accessible furniture. You name it. Visit our website at www.canastech.com.
Rick, let me ask you about this. Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services.
Don't sound so excited about it. Woo! Speaking of repairs.
We are the sister company to Canastech. We do the repairs on low vision devices, reading machines, for libraries, braille printers, and pretty well anything in between. We can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
Joining us today is Brett Oppegaard to talk to us about the UniD Project.
Hello.
Hello, Brett. How are you?
Doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. So we want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for your interest.
Well, listen, but before we dive into that, why don't you just give us a little bit of a background about you?
Okay. Well, I started my career as a newspaper journalist and did that for more than a decade. And through the technological changes in journalism, I became very interested in how media is affected by technology, and went to graduate school, started teaching journalism and researching mobile media in particular, and found a great love for technical communication, and included in that is my interest in media accessibility. And media accessibility is basically the principle of all media should be accessible to all people equally.
Hear, hear.
Seems reasonable.
Absolutely. Okay, well, so
reasonable, but rarely followed principle.
Yeah.
Although these days, with everything going on down in the States with government and stuff, do you even want to look at the news anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there's some selective. But you have the choice to not pay attention to it, as opposed to not having access. So access is the big issue for me.
True.
Like you can choose whatever media you want to use, but having access to the news is the important part, or access to the media.
Or access to pizza delivery services, just as we were just talking about earlier, the
Domino's.
the
big Domino's decision in the Supreme Court. So that's exciting. But you're absolutely right.
Absolutely. Access to everything. Our principle has been, at least how we can affect it through audio description, is to give everybody access to the media, and especially public resources that are available. in ways that give an equivalent experience. So it's not going to be exactly the same experience, but it's going to be an equivalent experience.
So step us through a little bit about the unit description program. Give us an idea of what its aims are and what it does.
Sure. So a few years ago, I worked with the National Park Service on a variety of different media projects. And a few years ago, they sent me a box of about 400 brochures. They're called UniGrid brochures, which is the brochure you receive when you first arrive at a national park. And basically asked me, can you help make these accessible to people who can't see those? And I thought this was a really interesting technical communication challenge. How do you convert something that's completely visual into something that's completely audible? And it's not so hard to deal with the text part, which is simply a transcription process where you copy and paste the text and then machine voice or perform the text. But the real interesting challenges came about by examining the brochures and discovering that mostly they're photographs and charts and maps and all these things that are completely inaccessible through the normal translation process of just grabbing the text. And that became our focus, was how do we convert those images into sound. And what we discovered pretty quickly was that there weren't available resources to do that. There weren't web tools. There weren't really third-party contractors. There weren't a lot of systems set up to do that kind of translation. So we built our own, and we built it with grant funds. So it's free to everybody to use to create audio description. It's free to disseminate through the mobile apps, and it's free for the audience to download the apps and use those. And we've started with the brochures at National Park Service sites, trying to audio scribe ideally the entire National Park Service in terms of at least giving the basic brochure access to every site. And we worked with more than 100 parks so far out of the 400 or so that exist.
So this is a fairly huge project.
Yeah, it's a big national project. And we've also done some international work in Greece and in the Czech Republic and in a variety of places. We've done tests. Italy, we've done some work in Milan. So our mantra is to audio describe the world. And that means not just the brochure, but every part of the experience when you go to a place like a public resource, like a national park. From the minute you walk into the building to the minute you leave, every part of that should be accessible to people who are blind or visually impaired. And we feel like audio description is a key component to that, although there are other things available too, like tactile displays and other types of media that help to fill the picture in.
So it seems to me that, I mean, obviously this is something that anybody would consider long overdue. But it seems to me that probably the real catalyst for this being able to sort of gain some traction now is partly due to technology. And I think partly due to the idea of crowdsourcing the task. I mean, like you said, like translating 400 brochures would seem pretty daunting to any sort of one agency. But when you take that workload and you're able to do something like you guys are doing by crowdsourcing it, it must make it a lot more tenable. Yeah, and to be clear, we're not doing a crowdsource in the traditional sense. We're asking like citizens to chip in. The description is done through a training on a 1-week training we do with each park site. And we work with park staff to
teach them about audio description. So we're building the community of audio describers, and we're building a training that is based in empirical best practices. So it's not anecdotal or here's what we think we should do. We're using empirical research to make best practices and to refine best practices. And then through this training, our primary partner is the American Council of the Blind, and we have ACB serving as consultants during the training and judges during the training. When we have a hackathon-like style to our training where people participate in audio description games, and the ACB collaborators will provide the feedback on those descriptions, like which is the best, what do they like about it, what do they not like about it. So our goal there has been full integration of people who are blind and visually impaired in designing and building these different products that we've made.
So talk to us a little bit about the products themselves.
Okay, so we have three main things that we've created in this project. The first one is a website with online training for people who are interested in audio description. And that includes this training that we do, we call it a scriptathon. So it's like a hackathon, but we do description in it. And just a few weeks ago, we brought together, for example, participants from 28 national park sites, mostly in the Southeast, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, mostly in those areas. And we did this via a conference call. And we spent about a week together just talking about the basics of audio description, how to do it, what it is, how to do it well, how to describe particular things like photographs and maps. And then at the end of this training, we have the park staff work on their own brochures. So at the end, they're getting close to having a first draft done of the brochure. And then we work with them over the next few weeks or the following few weeks to finish that brochure. And so this website and web tool we've created allows people in an open source way, and again, free access. Anybody out there who wants to do some audio description and use this tool, you can just create a free account and start using it at unidescription.org, unidescription.org. And the tool will allow an export in 5 different ways. So once the audio description is created, the tool can export in text. It can export in HTML to put on a website. It can export in audio files, which are our tool machine voices and then creates MP3s out of. It can export in a mobile app. And what was the fifth one? Well, I'm forgetting what the 5th one is, but there are different ways to get the audio description into the ears of people who would be interested in listening to it. And all this is a service that's been funded by grants from the National Park Service, and Google has been a big contributor to this project. The second main product is a couple of mobile apps. They're called the UniD Description apps. Again, UNI Description. And you can find those on your app stores just by searching UniD Description. And these apps allow you to listen to the description that people created with our web tool. And the apps are free. Right now, we have completed, I believe, around 75 national parks. So these are some of the most iconic places in the country. We have Yellowstone, Yosemite, Washington Monument, Statue of Liberty, the Everglades, places all over. And you can search by state or by name and find a park in your area, hopefully. And the third part of this is the research, and that's where we, at the end of our training, we set up a couple review systems with ACB, and ACB will first listen to the description of the park brochure and give feedback on it. And then the most important part, I think, is to bring a group of either ACB members or people affiliated with ACB or friends of people with ACB, and they travel to the park in a group and test the audio description on site and give more feedback at the site through a focus group and some field tests.
Any plans to continue that type of rollout internationally to more places?
Yeah, we would love to work with other countries on this. It's basically open to anyone in the world who wants to work on audio description. We've had some people contact us from various different countries. Canada comes to mind. And it's just a matter of kind of getting the audio describer prepared for the task, and then completing the project, and then getting it in the hands of the people who are in the ears of the people who want to listen to it. So yeah, we have ambitions to do that, but right now the first goal really is to finish the complete National Park Service roster, which we're only about a quarter of the way through. And it is quite a daunting task. You think about 400 park sites. That's like in this last Descriptathon where we had 28 park sites, we probably had, maybe 2 or 3 representatives, sometimes up to 5 representatives from each park. So you're really collaborating with, 75 or 100 people plus, and they're all dispersed all around the country, and it's completely voluntary, and there's no, requirement that they have to do it. This is a goodwill thing on their part at this point. And we're working with the ACB volunteer judges who number around 50 at this point too. So it's a big logistical challenge. It's a technical communication challenge, but ultimately it's a social justice issue where people are not getting access to public resources, and they should have access to these public resources. And we're trying to change that dynamic.
So, I mean, again, it just sounds daunting for sure. But that being said, how does where we're at technologically right now sort of make the job a lot easier?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So when I started my graduate school studies at the dissertation level, the iPhone had just came out, the App Store had recently opened, and there was a big emergence of mobile technologies and all the affordances of mobile technologies. And I think mobile media has really made this possible. Of course, the building of it we're doing in a kind of a traditional website format, but the dissemination to be able to share this information via smartphones, which most adults in America have today, has been kind of the big game changer in the sense that we don't have to develop for 17 different third-party systems. We develop basically the same app for Android and iOS, Apple devices, and most people are able to access the information through that at the site where they want it, in the car, on the way there, whatever situation they have, it's very easy to get the information. And that has, I think you're right, that's really changed the way the possibilities are for audio description.
Is there much in the way of updating that you have to do to the system over time? If a windstorm goes through a park or something and knocks down a bunch of trees. We had that happen recently here in Vancouver. Do you
well, the way we've designed this, and I think this is part of the real strength of the project, is we're not subcontractors. We're not oriented toward profit. We're building an infrastructure, and then we're giving it away. So there's no middleman in the way of updates. The people at the park sites, it's like Hawaii Volcanoes is a good example, where the volcanoes have dramatically changed the way that park functions and looks and things like that. And so the people at the park can simply sign into their account and make those changes, and they're instantaneously ported into the app. And if they're using the HTML we provide, it'll automatically port all those changes into the website, without any kind of delay.
Nice.
So one of the big issues with these kinds of projects usually is you hire a subcontractor, you get some audio description done. 3 months later, 6 months later, you have to make a change, and then getting that change to happen is, could take 6 more months or something like that. And we wanted to remove all that friction and inertia in the process. So our tools allow people to just, they can change it at any time, the material. They can put seasonal material in there and turn it on and off based on the season, and it'll appear sometimes and not appear other times. It's a very flexible, powerful tool, and people have found quite a few ways to be creative with it.
Yeah, I guess if a volcano is erupting, that's something that you want. That's an update you want to push out right away.
Yeah. Don't.
Yeah,
step in the lava.
the danger of it, and then also it affected the way people visit the park. Which places are open, which places are accessible, what people see when they get there. So if you're going to audio describe that, you want to make sure the description matches what people are seeing, not what they could see last month or something.
Right. Hot. Let's talk a little bit about the audio description portion of it. I'm just curious to know sort of what your experience has been with the training portion of it. I think that a lot of people have misconceptions about just the type of skill set that's required to really produce effective audio description. Do you find that a lot of people who go through the course are kind of surprised by that?
Yeah, I think it's not, it's something everyone can do proficiently with training, but some people are better at it than others based just on their natural skills as a writer. Or maybe natural is not the right word, but the aptitudes they have as a writer.
Right.
So good audio description is clear, it's concrete, it's evocative. There are lots of techniques we can train people to use. But when it comes down to it, really, it's that translation. How does a person translate a photograph into words? Or one of the biggest and most complicated things we've studied are maps. You imagine, say, the map of Yosemite, which is, roughly the size of a state, and all the little roads on it, and rivers and lakes and wayside stops and all the different things. And there's no central focus to it. It's a nonlinear, non-centralized experience to use a map. And so we've spent a lot of time just really understanding what a map is and deconstructing that idea. And then also, how can you turn the visual aspects of a map into audible aspects that people can find useful, but also, kind of enlightening and bring context to a place, that the things that a map does that are not navigation oriented.
So it sounds like you guys sort of had to custom build your own version of audio description, because typically audio description is used for things like other types of media, TV shows, stuff like that. But it sounds like there was even another level for you guys that you guys had to use in this training. Is that correct?
That is correct. Most of the academic literature or even literature in the public domain about audio description is related to theater and film and TV, which are the origins of audio description. And there's very little that's been studied on what we call static media, which is photographs, illustrations, charts, maps, anything that doesn't move. And we've found that most of the discourse and discussion about how to do that kind of work is based in anecdotes brought over from the television or TV or film audio describing, which is quite a different dynamic. As in a film, you may have 3 seconds to describe something between pieces of dialogue, and in static media, we have as much time as we want,
Right.
As much time as the audience will give us. So a lot of people ask, well, does that mean, that people want short descriptions or long descriptions, or what do they want? And to me, the answer is very simple. From all our tests, they want high quality descriptions. And if you give a good description, and you do it in a way that people can drop out once they get bored, people will stay with those descriptions for a long time, a lot longer than the kind of literature suggests.
Yeah, it's the same with listening to an audiobook. If I've got a bad describer or narrator, I pretty much bail on that book because I just can't get into it. I can't listen to it for prolonged periods of time. Yeah,
right. That's a big part of it. Just even the performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if the person's not doing a good job describing, I mean, we have some of our descriptions are near literary in quality, and the ACB judges and reviewers will tell us this is just beautiful writing, and they just enjoy listening to the writing that explains the image, and it's a sort of a form of entertainment on its own, as opposed to audio description often is conceptualized as very utilitarian and very oriented on like getting a task done or something like that. And I think that's part of it. But our discoveries in the research process here have been that audio description really has been undervalued and underused, and it is its own genre or medium that has potential that hasn't been tapped yet.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. I mean that's even because we've talked to quite a few people in the audio description field, both here in Canada and down there, and it really is sort of something that's evolving right now. I know in Canada here, just recently, it's been legislated that a certain amount of primetime content here on our major cable channels are required to have audio description. Do you get that sense? Do you down there, like, do you feel that audio description is beginning to sort of gain some sort of traction? And do you feel like, in the next few years that we might actually really see some action in that regard?
Oh, I think so. In Hawaii, where I'm at, that we actually have a law that requires audio described screenings of every movie that's put on here. And audio description to me is where it is now, is basically where closed captioning or open captioning was maybe 15, 20 years ago, where people were starting to realize, that this is great for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, but it also has other benefits for society as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think audio description has a lot of that same potential that just hasn't been tapped yet. When you listen to a description of a photograph as opposed to just say glance at it, it really forces you to reflect upon what is in the image and how the image was put together, and just what it all means in ways that I don't think you can get through the eyes. And this is something that has become very like a very powerful source of information for people, not only that are blind or visually impaired or print dyslexic, or even people who are acoustic learners. A lot of people just learn better through the ears than they do through reading or
That's right.
or watching videos. But there's also just a general benefit to society of taking the time to describe what a visual element is composed of and what it means, and increasing that literacy about visual communication.
Well put. We agree 100%.
You've got me thinking now about audio descriptions of photograph. I'm looking at a poster on Ryan's wall, trying to think, how would I describe that?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I mean, in our training, we start out with portrait images. So we'll take a portrait, like a really tightly cropped portrait of just a person from the half the torso up to the top of the head, no background, and having people describe that person. And when you do that, you start to think about, like, what am I baking into my thoughts about this photograph? What do I bake in when I'm thinking about the gender of this person? What do I bake in when I'm thinking about the ethnicity of this person? What do I bake in when I'm thinking about the clothes they're wearing or the expression on their face? And all these things are happening, but not articulated or expressed. And doing that kind of exercise helps, I think, create a greater reflection upon the way communication has generally moved into this extremely quick visual realm. Like if you imagine a video, say even 10 years ago, used to have say 5 seconds or 10 seconds between cuts. And now it's down to like 1 to 3 seconds between cuts. Sometimes even I've seen videos where they're cutting like twice in a second, to a different scene or a different image or a different perspective or whatever. And all that's done in a way to communicate information. And if it's not audio described, think how much information gets lost right there. I mean, incredible amount of information.
It's true.
And then a credible amount of information is being conveyed to the audience that way. So as communication gets more and more visual in lots of realms, we get this ocular centrism that is kind of taken over. And we're forgetting about all the other powerful senses we have. The ear is an incredibly powerful sense. And of course, we have all sorts of other senses, related not only to like smell or taste, but also the way we feel when we're walking up a hill, or the way we feel the temperature of the room is. There's all these senses we have. And those are kind of all squashed in this ocular centric view that modern media has taken. And I think we lose a lot in that respect. And bringing audio description into the picture helps to balance the scales a bit.
I'm totally stealing that word, ocular centrism.
But that's interesting because really, when you think about it, I mean, they've been saying for years now that everybody's attention span is going down, and the way that we consume a lot of conventional media. You're absolutely right. Like quick cuts, like even like looking at a Facebook news feed or Instagram feed or whatever it is, you think about how fast people will scroll through images and posts and stuff, and it's we're talking seconds. People aren't slowing down to really consume any given media, so it is an interesting element to have this audio overlay that maybe would slow that consumption down and actually, create a little bit more of an impact with some of the media that we're consuming on a daily basis.
I think it would bring to the foreground what the visual communicators are trying to articulate through their images. And then that will give the audience a better chance to participate.
Yeah.
If you're watching a video and it's, even if it's cutting every 1 second, in 1 minute you've had 60 images put before your eyes. There's no way you can process that much information that quickly. And so it's almost working on your subconscious, how that message is being conveyed. And that's fine for some types of media and some circumstances where you're just, maybe trying to relax or get entertained or something. But it's not really the best way to communicate with others, or to have an interactive communication,
right,
where people are taking the time to interpret and consider your message. And the Facebook feed is a good example. You can scroll down a Facebook feed and, I don't know, see dozens of images in 5 seconds, or
yep.
And then how much are you really taking in, or how much is getting brought into your mind that you're not really even aware is being put in there.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about the online course itself. How long would it take? Well, first of all, it's completely free, as you mentioned. How long in generally does it take to work through it?
What's called the UniD Academy. So UniD description, we shorten that to UniD. We're trying to bring UniD to audio description around the world. And the UniD Academy is available on the UniD description website. And there are different modules, so it depends on if you want to do all the training or just some of the training. So, for example, say you just want to learn about how to audio describe maps. That particular training would maybe take 30 minutes or so. I don't know if I've timed it. All of our training together, if you do the online version, you could probably do it in a day. Our descriptathons, which are highly interactive and game-based in the way we approach them, those we do over a 3-day period with independent work beforehand and afterward. And then during those 3 days, we give breaks for people to work on their own brochures and things to practice what we're teaching them.
Can I send you a picture of Rob and Steve and have you describe them to me? I haven't seen these guys. I've never actually seen these guys because I'm totally blind, and I'd be really curious.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
and we lie. We also tell them we're buff and good looking and stuff.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're 7 feet tall, 300 pounds. Can dunk a basketball between my legs.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Or at least I'll send you a picture of the poster Steve was talking about. Have him describe it and you guys describe it and see what comes out, because I have no idea what's on my wall. I think there's a...
Well, it's really interesting. A couple people on our project, one of our co-PIs she's legally blind and deaf. And one of my research assistants is blind. And I'll talk about my research assistant. She would come into my office and sit in a chair by the door. And one day we started talking, and I mentioned something, on my shelf or whatever. And she said, "Oh, you have shelves on the wall." And I thought, "Oh yeah, I've never described my office here." So I spent about 5 minutes just describing the office to her.
Yep.
And that helped give her some context to the work environment.
Right.
That it's just one of those things where if you don't think about that, it is leaving people out of the full experience.
Yeah, guys.
Well, no, seriously, like I'm seriously going to go through the courses, because I think I don't know. I think in general, I think they're just really good skills to have, and I think that anyone would benefit
absolutely
from going through it. And
hey, who knows?
And it also helps designing your media. If you design a video with audio description in mind beforehand, a lot of the dialogue can do the description instead of having to inject audio description in between dialogue.
Right.
And, voiceovers can do the description instead of having to try to cram stuff in afterward. And I think, just having that audio description sensibility in the design process makes a big difference in making more accessible media. You don't have to do as much on the back end, and then the final product is a lot more interesting and more widely accessible by all types of people. And again, it's not just people who are blind or visually impaired. You also have people who are acoustic learners. They really are oriented or have high aptitude to learn by listening to things. And if the media is tilted towards something they have, say, a low aptitude for, like learning through watching something, that privileges the people who can see it versus the people who can't.
Yeah, and I mean, even doing something like, I do a lot of web work, so even things like alt tagging images, those are, or on Twitter feeds and stuff, if you're alt tagging your, any sort of photos that you're dumping into social media, again, it would be extremely useful to sort of have some insight on just how to describe a photo effectively, because it's not as intuitive as you might think in terms of, really painting a picture for somebody who can't see it.
Right. And alt tag is the start, not the end of audio description. So alt tag, and Facebook has tried to do automatic audio. They call it audio description, but it's really like alt tagging. And example would be there's a photograph of a dog with a Frisbee,
mm-hmm.
and Facebook can use visual recognition software to determine there's a dog and there's a Frisbee in the photograph, and they can tag it that way. But as you might wonder, what kind of dog?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the dog doing with a Frisbee? Is the dog jumping in the air? Is the dog chewing on the Frisbee?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening here? So that's the kind of thing that artificial intelligence hasn't been able to pull off yet. And these are really important. These are really important pieces of information for somebody who can't see the image.
You will absolutely.
Another good example from one of my friends in ACB. He says when he goes into a gift shop at a national park, he's often with somebody because somebody drove him there or whatever. And the person will say, yeah, we got, there's T-shirts and keychains and stuffed animals, variety of things. And that really doesn't help him figure out, like, okay, well, I want to buy a memento here, but you're giving me such an abstract collection of things. It's not really that interesting. And the person will often take the friend of mine to the stuff that person likes, instead of the thing that my friend might like. And then, like, say he wants to get a T-shirt, like, oh, I'd like to get a T-shirt here of, in Denali at the gift shop. And there's a bear on the T-shirt. Okay, so the friend will say there's a bear on the T-shirt. And then my friend will say, well, what kind of bear? Is this a bear wearing a Christmas hat? Is it, is it a ferocious bear eating a seal? I want a certain type of a shirt. I don't, I want a certain color shirt. I want a certain, cut to it, a certain look to it. And these are all things that a lot of people take for granted. And audio description could help to solve a lot of these issues, I believe. So some of the expansion of the project include, we're working on a browser extension where we'll be able to provide audio description for images on the web, and then those images will, if the image is on more than one site and you have our browser extension in place, it'll carry the audio description to that image as well. We're working on auto apps. So a lot of cars today have app systems built into it, and you can listen to audio description that's geolocated from our project. For example, the Blue Ridge Parkway is one of the parks we've been working with, and they have several hundred miles of national park that they cover. And obviously you wouldn't be walking several hundred miles, you'd be driving it. So when you're in your car and you drive near a wayside sign, our system will recognize where you're at and provide that description over your car audio.
That's cool.
We have just a variety. We have some aesthetic projects we're working on. We have a grant proposal in consideration right now with the National Endowment for the Arts to create a piece of audio description sound art with sound artists, where you bring not only the text but ambient sound and all the tricks that the sound artists use to create a beautiful piece of sound. You know, there's a potential there. So there's a lot of area to develop in this field, and I think we're just at the very beginning of it.
Any improvements to the voice quality or synthesized speech coming down the road?
Well, the voice is an interesting issue because we want to keep it free. We have to use an open source voice.
Right.
And there's also some contractual issues with the National Park Service in the sense that if we offer National Park Service content, we can't use a voice that costs money to use unless we have some kind of funding in place that will cover the cost of that voice in forever.
Okay.
So the short answer there is that the voice we use now to create the machine voice sound is the best open source voice that we could find. If you have a better one, please let us know.
Okay.
The second part of that is we provide the audio description in a variety of different formats. So most of our users right now, it's like 75% of our users are using their own screen readers or their own voices on their devices.
Right.
That they've set up to go at the speed they like, which is usually 4 to 6 times normal speed, and then the type of voice they like, male or female. You know, there's a variety of voices out there that people can put on their devices. So it's mostly the I'd say more advanced users use their own voice, and then the 25% are the kind of the beginning users, people who, say, by aging have become blind or visually impaired, or just getting started using audio description, and they use that machine voice. It's not a great voice, we acknowledge that, but right now it's the best option we have. So we're hopeful that we can improve that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely listenable and intelligible. You know, I could understand what it was telling me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that we're kind of constrained to which voice we can use. And then the other part of it is most people don't use that anyway.
Right.
They use the screen readers.
Yeah.
And then they often listen at much higher speeds. We had a consultant working with us for a while that I think he listened at 22 times normal speed. Mm-hmm. And I literally could not understand a word of it, but he could figure out everything.
Yeah, that's Ryan.
So it was amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's no different, I think, than, you know, you sighted people, you're reading a book, you're skipping the its, ofs, thes, ands, you know.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Same idea.
I mean, he was doing computer programming at 22 times normal speed. So I think that was like a super ear. I mean, that's beyond what even an equivalent like scanning would do. He's a very talented person.
Wow.
Yep.
See, really what should happen, Morgan Freeman should just be a bro and like release the licensing to his voice, and then they can just synthesize Morgan Freeman, and that can just be Morgan Freeman could be the narrator of the human race.
That's right.
From here on in, they could just.
That would be good.
Yeah, we missed our shot with James Earl Jones. So.
That's right. So let's not lose Morgan Freeman before we sample his voice. And
well, there are a couple issues with a perform voice too. The reason we use machine voice is because with machine voice we can instantly have the text verbalized. And if you use a perform voice, our tool does allow people to upload their own performance. So if Robert Redford or whatever wants to read the script, you can do that. Again, the main issue is maintenance. So when a word changes or a date changes or some content changes, and you would think a national park wouldn't change that often, but they actually are quite fluid in the way the interpretations are constantly being refreshed. And just different aspects of the park are changing, the people at the park sites can make those changes right away without having, let me get on Robert Redford's schedule again. These are the kinds of practicalities that we've built into the system.
Now I just want to hear Morgan Freeman at 22 times speed.
That would be pretty good.
Listen, we want to thank you so much. Oh, wait, before we let you go, give out the website again. Anybody who's interested, where can they go to find out more information about the UniDescription project?
It's unidescription.org, unidescription.org. The name is based on the founding source of our project, which is the UniGrid brochure. And so we play off that, and we call it the UniD Project for short, and that builds into our mantra. We're again trying to bring unity to the world of audio description. It's kind of a fractured world where a lot of people aren't necessarily working together or communicating well together, and we feel like we can be a hub for that. And also the bigger mantra is to audio describe the world. So one of the things when people come to the national park on our field visits from ACB, and they listen to the brochure and they hear all this information, they get to the site, and literally like the first thing after we're done with the brochure is, okay, what can we do next? And that's the question we're pushing toward, okay, so we got the brochure done, but now let's get all the wayside signs done so people can take independent walks on these trails and get the same information as anybody else walking on these trails. Let's audio describe the exhibits. Let's audio describe every place that visual media exists. Let's make sure there's also audio description there. And then that way, people come into these national parks, and these again are public resources paid by everyone, not just paid by some people, right. Paid by everyone, and they exist for everyone. Let's make those accessible to everyone.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you again, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Absolutely. Let us know if anytime you want to come on.
And Brett, don't go yet. I have one question for you.
Sure.
What's the temperature in Hawaii today?
I'd say it's sunny and 78. It's so like almost every day. It's either 78, 79, or 80.
So that's got to be like 28, 30 degrees Celsius, right?
Okay. Okay. Well, I used to live in the Northwest, so I was in the Pacific Northwest. So I was maybe like 5 hours from Vancouver, Canada. And we went there all the time, and
that's where we are.
Spent a lot of time in Canada, so I've enjoyed it.
That's 25 degrees Celsius.
25?
It is a bit colder, a bit rainier, but a beautiful place nonetheless.
It was 2 degrees Celsius this morning in Vancouver.
Little chill.
Good skiing weather.
Yeah, it's getting there. Awesome. Thanks so much, Brett.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Nice talking with you.
You as well.
Wow, that's a much bigger project than I expected when we were coming into the show. I had no idea it was that big.
Well, and just think
it's a lot of work.
And think of every building. Like you could do the aquarium, science world, theaters, museums, galleries. Like every public space could be described.
Yeah.
And this tool's free.
Yeah. There's, the possibilities are pretty limitless in terms of, their workload. Mm-hmm. Like once they're done the parks, there's so many other things, public spaces that could be done as well.
Yeah.
And, even doing, any one given museum would be a huge workload. Yeah. So
they should partner with Way Around for those public Way Around stickers.
Yeah.
Well, I was even thinking, of some sort of indoor navigation too. You get your GPS or whatever to get you to the door. Mm-hmm. And then, once you're inside, you have this brochure from these guys. Yeah. And then, it's describing the exhibits and it's describing whatever. Yet your other app is also saying, to your left in 20 feet, you have blah, 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 just the combination of technology.
All right, we need to hook them up with way around and right here.
You're the man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that in the end, the ideal solution is the marriage of a bunch of different technologies together in order to make it all work. The part of that whole thing that kind of fascinated me was this idea of audio description and that skill set that it takes to really effectively describe something like an image.
Rob sits with his arms crossed.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like
he said with his example of the T-shirt, like my wife and I were at a concert on the weekend, and they said, she said there's some gift tables set up and there's some books and T-shirts. I was like, well, you could get into that. What kind of T-shirt is it? What color is it? What's on the T-shirt? Like, there's so much more detail that we miss as blind people.
And not only that, not even just in terms of just the pure description part of it, but then you have to put things into context in order
Rob
for
slaps his hands together and then waves them about.
Stop.
Rob lifts a middle finger.
No, but the context of the picture, what's happening in the picture, like why does the dog have the Frisbee? Is it raining? Is it blue sky? Is it a picture that is supposed to evoke happiness? I know that for myself in, working on the website and stuff and doing the alt tags for the website, a lot of times, you're just like image of a toaster.
Well, and that's what he said. Alt tags are kind of like the start of audio description.
Yeah.
And at the end, it's like dog and Frisbee. Yeah, whoopie-doo.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go through that course because I think that for sure. I think I think that it would help in terms of even just alt tagging pictures.
Our alt tags are going to be awesome.
Yeah, right. They're going to be a paragraph.
As I was sitting here trying to figure out how to audio describe you, Rob, I noticed, and I never really thought about it much before, but you do gesticulate with your hands a fair bit when you talk.
Do I?
Did you learn that when you were married to that Italian girl? Is that where you picked it up?
Let's not talk about that.
We'll have, we have to have Rob on the podcast as a guest.
It's funny you say that. It's funny
Turkey Auschwitz.
It's funny that you should say that because I was thinking something similar. I was like, we should just do a podcast where we just talk about ourselves.
Each other?
Yeah, like we just kind of interview
you guys
each
did
other.
Me, right?
We did you as Can-Ask Tech, though.
And we did Rick. We did Rick as Chaos. But yeah, we've never really had a podcast where we just talk about ourselves and what.
All right, I quit. No more podcast. We're done.
Might be interesting. I'm going to write that down as an idea.
Things we could find out.
Yeah.
Next time we're starved for content in terms of getting a guest on.
More grist for the mill.
Oh, so I just need to stop booking guests is what you're saying.
There you go.
Okay. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email if they so desire at cowbell@atbanter.com.
And even better, we're all over social media. We're just everywhere. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. I mean, come on. How hot is that?
That is hot.
Is it hot?
And soon, those photos on Instagram are going to have the best audio descriptions.
I hope so. Maybe I'll actually go to Instagram and see what's there.
Probably not a lot.
Dogs and Frisbees.
Yeah.
A lot of duck faces.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that being said, that's where you can find us, and that is going to about do it for us this week. Big thanks to Brett Oppegaard for joining us and talking about UniD, and we will see everybody next week.
Ciao. This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canassTech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com, or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840, or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.